All right, am I live? Let me go to YouTube and see if I'm there. Thank you for letting me experiment while you're here. Am I there? Oh yeah, we're live. Beautiful. All right, I figured out I can do that transition live, and so some people can tune into us now. I don't know if they will or not, and they can comment as well. So if we get a comment from somebody that comes in, I'll let you know. But hi guys, I see a couple of people jumping in. So let us know where you're joining us from, and let me introduce you to Lindsay Booker, my friend from Birmingham, Alabama. BHAM Blue Dot. In the podcast we just recorded, you explained what that means, but why don't you explain for these guys, what does BHAM Blue Dot mean?
So BHAM is Birmingham, and I'm a blue dot in a red state, bright blue dot in a very red state.
How aware are people around you of that, and does it manifest itself on a regular basis in your life?
Well, my TikTok has been a secret. Like, it was a secret. I'd never in a million years, when I started, thought I would have like 50,000 followers.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would have. And I just got on in January. So it was kind of a secret. And now I think people are finding out. But yeah, I'm in a very conservative area. Obviously, there are a handful of other blue dots. But yeah, I think a lot of people would find my TikTok account very infuriating, probably. People are like, oh my gosh. And there have been a couple people who found it where I've thought, oh gosh. But I'm a business owner, and I've worried about, what it could do to my business. But I feel like what I'm doing, I feel like what we're doing is important, that we're saying things that people, need to hear, that people want to hear. People feel very alone in all of this.
Yeah. So we were talking in the podcast about you being in an ARC church, joining that later in life after leaving a Methodist church. And so what was the leaving moment like for you? What was like the final straw? You said you sort of faded away. What was that final breaking point like?
It was the realization that like the church is like heavy Trump supporters. Yeah, it was Trump.
And I'm sorry to jump in and interrupt. What made you then decide to start putting your voice on social media, kind of speaking out against that?
It was right after the insurrection, and I felt like I was losing my mind. And I was just looking around. I felt like a canary in a coal mine. I was like, does anybody else not see what's happening here? So a friend of mine told me that she was on TikTok, and I was on Facebook, and I've actually burned a lot of bridges on Facebook.
Facebook's a nightmare.
Yeah. So I was posting political stuff on there last year, and realized that like, oh wait, nobody feels the same way that I do, because I was posting a lot about like George Floyd and systemic racism and Trumpism, and then I realized nobody agreed with me. So I got off Facebook. Like, the people who were commenting on stuff, it was like always my atheist friends. So things like talking about anti-racist work. So a friend of mine said, you should get on TikTok because people do a lot of this kind of, anti-Trump stuff on TikTok. So I got on, and then I just kind of lurked and watched. And then finally one day I couldn't take it anymore. And I'd been on a Zoom with my therapist, and I was just weeping because I felt so lonely in all of this, and like what's happening with, Christianity. And so I just picked up my phone and I recorded a TikTok from my car. It was like, I describe it as like, if you've ever wanted to like go to the top of a mountain and just like scream, that's kind of how I felt. It was like I just needed to like say some things. So I started doing these TikToks, just, I would say, like, I'm saying things that I can't say at the Thanksgiving table because they're not worth it. It's not worth it. So that's kind of how it started.
And has that been cathartic?
It has been. And I didn't expect it to. I mean, it's really made such a huge difference. I felt so lonely. Like, I just felt so lonely, and I don't feel lonely anymore.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like, when I got on, I mean, I think like when I got on and started doing this, there weren't a whole lot of people, saying the things that I'm saying. And especially people, I think maybe some of the appeal is that I'm Southern, like the things that I say, we don't know
many blue dots that have accents like yours.
you don't hear the things I say in a Southern accent very often, especially some like my real radical leftist stuff. Um, but I'm seeing now there's like more and more creators coming on who are talking about deconstructing, really good creators. There's a lot of really good content out there. So the more people that come out and, it's great.
So for any of you guys that are following us on YouTube here, if you have a question or a thought for Lindsay, you can put it in the comments and we'll chat about it. Who was first on TikTok that you sort of picked up and said, "Oh, this is somebody speaking my language"? Can you remember who were some of the April Ajoy?
April Ajoy.
Yeah, I think I just got to talk last week with Rev Brandon Robertson. He was one of the first ones that I saw.
Same.
And Rev Carla.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity.
And you were one of the first.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been cathartic. You're absolutely right. But also the interesting thing for me in this whole thing is I was doing what you're doing on Facebook. And I think that's, if we can talk about this in Christianese of like, that's what God had me do for a while, is like share this with the audience that I had on Facebook, and they hated it. It was not fun. And I really felt sort of in my spirit, like, all right, I'm done with Facebook because it's a waste of time. I'm not doing anything good there. So I'm going to go to TikTok. I think it's going to be a more fertile pasture, if you will, of people that want to hear what I have to say. And it's just been so joy filled. That doesn't mean I don't get the trolls on there too that are horrible people, but it has been joy filled to find people like you and April and start to say exactly as you said, hey, I'm not alone here. There's a whole crew growing out there.
I get so many messages. I mean, I get direct messages from people all the time that say, just thank you so much for sharing this. And it really, like, people would say, like, you're so brave. You're so brave. And how it's sad that it is brave, to come out and just say, hey, I love Jesus. And I think we should just get back to just loving people, and let's go back to just looking at what Jesus taught. And can we just go back to that?
Who knew those were radical messages?
Those are radical, right? And people are like, wow, you're so brave.
This is my friend Carol. She says, I just joined now. April and Rev and Paul are all speaking brave concepts with humor and compassion. All right, Carol, you got to check out Beham Blue Dot. You'll love it with a Southern accent with it for sure.
I swear a lot. If anybody, I do swear a lot. I need to clean it up a little bit.
Why?
I get very passionate.
Why do you need to clean it up?
Oh, I don't know. I think maybe sometimes people miss the message because they can't get past the F word, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I've wrestled with that too. And, but so when Jesus said, eat my flesh and drink my blood, I think he was being intentionally offensive to see who was willing to hang around through something offensive to, I mean, he was testing hearts with that. And so sometimes I think just saying a big old fuck right in the middle of everything, test people's hearts to say, are you really in it to hear truth, or are you in it until it gets messy?
Right. Yeah.
So, and as you said, back in the devil speaking time, I used to say, a curse word a day keeps religious spirits away. So I think it keeps you from getting overly religious to drop an F-bomb from time to time. But one thing I thought was really interesting, you said in our conversation of the podcast, and if you guys are just listening to the Patreon version, go back and listen to the other, but you talked about being mad at God, losing community, stepping away, finding out your community wasn't what you thought it was, caused you to be mad at God. What has that looked like for you? How have you been processing that through?
Sometimes I feel like a rebellious teenager, yeah, I do get mad. I do get mad at God, and I'll do things sometimes that, I won't pray. I don't pray, I don't praise, I don't do those things. I still, I have days. I'm like a moody teenager when it comes to my, I'm just a moody teenager.
So you're in my coaching cohorts. Let me ask you one of those coaching questions. Like what are you feeling as you share that? I'm really intrigued by what you're sharing right now and really appreciate you sharing it.
Oh yeah. Oh, I feel just very uncomfortable. It makes me very uncomfortable um and sad and scared, afraid
Hmm.
to really
So
like
do you feel like you're withholding prayer to like teach God a lesson? I mean, are you trying to say,
like you're not going to do anything anyway. You're
yeah,
I don't even know if you're real. And then, and then it's like, oh, that's just the devil. I'm like a crazy person. But I still love Jesus. I say it all the time. Like I still love Jesus. I will always love the teachings of Jesus, and I have nothing to lose by loving Jesus. Nothing to lose.
so I think we're afraid to say out loud, I'm not even sure if you're real. And we feel like that's the big bomb, and I'm on this journey, and my wife, is behind me in the journey, and she's like, do you even believe this stuff anymore? But I think, and this was in my conversation with Rev Brandon last week, that we discover things when we're willing to live in the mystery of things, when we're willing to say, I don't know. I do think some of what is the problem in evangelicalism is just that human need for certainty. But when we're brave to say, I think this is who God is. I think my traditional upbringing is true about there's some version of God out there. But if I'm willing to say, but I'm not sure, and maybe even more so that I'm going to be okay, even if not, then we really start to, I don't know, to find some truth and some peace in the messiness of that. What do you think?
Yeah.
By the way, you're not alone in questioning if God exists.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. I know.
I am so there with you on that.
I don't think God's mad at me. I don't think God's mad at us when we question him. I don't.
Not at all.
Um, no, and I think it too can bring us deeper in our faith. We start to ask questions, and yeah, it's hard though. The fact though that when I say like I don't even know if I feel like I'm being a rebellious teenager when I say things like, God, I don't even know if you're real, because I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I don't make him mad. So obviously, like I still do believe in God.
I think if we read the Psalms without our evangelical goggles on, we see that there's a whole lot of Psalms saying,
Yes.
F you, God.
Yes, absolutely.
Where the F are you right now?
Right. Yeah.
And I think if God is who I think God is, and who I was taught that he is, I think he can take it.
He can take it. Yeah.
And I know, gosh, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today, and it was like, can you imagine, somebody proposing marriage to another person and saying, okay, here's 66 books of my rules. I love you and I will never forsake you. I will never leave you. And now here's a book that is a compilation of 66 versions of my rules in our marriage. And I'm with you until you start breaking my rules. And then I'm going to have to turn my back on you. And if you continue to violate my rules, I'm going to throw you into this place filled with fire and you're going to burn forevermore.
It doesn't, right.
I mean, who's gonna say yes to that proposal?
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Well, and I like I've said lately, I just feel like, because people will say, well, because I love the LGBTQ community, and people will say like, you're loving people straight to hell if you're condoning this lifestyle. And I just would rather like stand in front of God and say, you know what, I loved people. I saw people who were being oppressed and marginalized, and I walked with them. I spoke up for them. And I know there was, there's some stuff in this book that somebody told me, that, being gay is a sin, but it was really unclear to me. There was enough doubt there that I just erred on the side of loving people. And I think God's okay with that, you know?
Yeah.
I think God would be okay with that.
And you talked about that bringing peace to you, that the break with the community was really hard, and that's sometimes that fear of leaving that community, but it has brought peace, and maybe this is, and you're saying this is one area with the, loving gay people, that it's brought you peace.
Yeah. Yeah, and just being able to love people, and just being able to love people the way they are and not have the like, it's not my job to win soul, like, it's not my job to save people, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. It's
No,
you know, from what I can tell, like, really my only job is just to love my neighbor,
that's good.
you know?
So
That's a
what
lot
has,
easier.
I'm sorry to jump in and interrupt you. What has the response been? You say not many people around you know about your TikTok, which I always find pretty funny. That people are doing these TikToks and don't know, people around them don't know it. But what has the response been? I know you've had some videos that have gone massively viral. You said you've grown to 50,000 followers in just, what are we at, 6 months? So what has the response been?
I have people who love it. Um, I think some people it makes them, it makes them uncomfortable. I don't think people don't really say a whole lot, which means I know they don't like it. But the people who do like it love it, you know? So I have a handful of people who are really encouraging. Um, there was somebody who I saw was following me, um, who I know is very conservative and like kind of really big into this church I left. And I sent her a text and said, "Hey, I saw that you're following me on TikTok. You know, I hope you're not horrified." And she responded and said, that she basically believes the exact opposite as me, like complete opposite. And she said, "But we can still be friends where you just can't talk politics or anything."
Well, that's great that she's willing to hang in there and be a friend,
Yeah.
because that doesn't happen to many. What's been, and I love to hear people share journeys like yours, because I think it's affirming and encouraging for others. Like, what's been the hard thing? What's been the hard thing to, other than losing the community, but like the thing that you're like, oh yeah, maybe I am way wrong on this. Is there any one thing you can point to?
That anything that I feel wrong.
Yeah, like anything that's a pull from your old religious life that's in your ear saying, "Are you sure you're right about that?"
Right. I know. Well, I mean, the LGBTQ stuff, I mean, is still like, I still have that kind of voice,
Mm,
but even though I never really, I don't know, I still struggle with that one.
yeah.
But I think it's just because we've all been so, indoctrinated to believe that being gay is a sin. Um,
And it's so funny.
even though I know-
It's not funny because it's so painful for so many people, but it's
and
ironic. Go ahead.
well, no, and it's just so stupid. Like, it's just so stupid of all the things, to be so honed in on this one.
Yeah, I always say there's 6 passages in the Bible that we point to talking about homosexuality, and I think we can make a case all or most of those are misinterpreted. But even if they're not, even if they're spot on in their interpretation, it's still 6 passages as opposed to thousands of other concepts, and the concept of loving people as yourself, the concept of loving your neighbor, and then Jesus taking it further and saying, loving your neighbor is loving that person that you don't think deserves God's favor.
Right.
How do we elevate this to the king of all sins? Well, after abortion and gay marriage, those are the
Right.
the
I was
two
going to bring
biggies.
that one up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jesus didn't seem to find them particularly important to spend a lot of time dealing with. So it's just crazy how we got here.
Right. And I've just said, like, with homosexuality, like, if it were something that were important to Jesus, like, he would have said it. It would have been very clear, like, over and over, and it's just not there.
Yeah. And
Mm,
it's one of those that we feel like we have to be adherent to, and really the church has built it. And I think it's why we see generations leaving now is you have to be all in or all out.
right,
You don't
right,
get to
right,
wrestle with these concepts.
right,
I mean, an abortion is, I mean, I really started my TikTok just doing series on abortion. And it is like I'm speaking a language from another planet to people to say, the Bible never once mentions abortion as a sin. Not once. Like you could argue 6 times on the homosexuality, not once on abortion. And so how did it become the major driver of our thought?
right. Well, it's a it's a
Mm,
wedge issue that wasn't, I mean, that wasn't even a thing until the 70s, right? That was even a
79, I think, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like we can point to the discussion where it began.
right,
But I even have friends that are deep into deconstruction that are still like, but I know that but I know that abortion is wrong. I know that we have to pass a law against abortion. So I do think the homosexuality and gay marriage thing is turning. I mean, I tell my church friends, like, you've lost that battle. Christians overwhelmingly are saying, this is stupid. Let's just love people. We're not letting them lead in the church yet, but I think that will follow. But
mhm.
the abortion thing is still a deep, deep, deep root.
And yeah, it's crazy, and that's one that's really made me so mad, the single issue voters, but if you try to talk about things like, "Hey, this isn't working. Why don't we try something different?" Like, you know, education, free birth control, you know, helping women, who can't afford a baby, like, but, financially supporting them, giving them resources to reduce the number of abortions rather than just flat out. But in the second you start talking like that, they're like, oh, so you're a baby killer. Oh, so
Yeah.
you're pro abortion. So you love abortion, son. That's not what I'm saying. But this, like, immediately, like, they tune out, and it's crazy to me. Um, but
That's
but on that issue, though, I still feel like, for me, like, would I have an abortion? Like, no, but um, as far as, like, the law goes, I vote what's best for the country and not what's best for Christianity, you know?
yeah,
And I don't get to decide about somebody else's body, period. Even if I did think that abortion is horribly wrong, which I don't, I still don't think that I should decide that for anybody.
yeah. I
Mm,
had a business partner who was a long time an elected official as a Democrat in California, and so Democrats in California are really Democrats,
right, right.
and he was a wonderful Christian man. I know Christian Democrat is hard for some of my friends to swallow, but I guarantee you he knows the Bible better than you. And but in my naivety of my journey, I asked him once, like, how do you rectify this Democrat and Christian thing? And he chuckled, as if, oh, I've heard this one before. And he said to me, I've read the Bible end to end many times. I make it a point every year to read the Bible end to end. And he said, it says way more about taking care of the poor than it does about abortion. And that really, my reaction was like, yeah, but I got nothing. I have no comeback. Because because that's the thing that's crazy. And people are telling me they're biblical and they follow the Bible. And I'm like, okay, so the Bible is completely silent on abortion, 100%. Romans left their babies on the side of the road to die if the dad didn't want the baby, the mom didn't matter what her opinion was. And Jesus never mentioned it, not once. Not once did he point and say, see, that's what's going to bring down the Roman Empire. And that we've made it such a big issue just is crazy. And what you said is so right on. Like, I don't know anybody that is pro-abortion. Nobody is like, this is a great day, a baby's getting aborted. Maybe there's a small, I won't say nobody, But the point is, passing a law isn't going to fix anything, and the pursuit of the law is destroying so much. So
Yes.
let's try to actually go to solutions for the problem,
Right.
and let's understand where it really comes from.
Right. Yeah, and it's that, they're voting for, pro-life at the expense of so many other things. The single issue. Let's see, sorry, this just popped up.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, no, that's okay. But doing this at the expense of all these social welfare programs that would benefit, women and children and babies, unborn babies.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're anti-abortion and anti-healthcare. And like, okay, those should be diametrically opposed to each other. So Annette says here that she, kind of moved from being conservative to liberal. She's had to make new friends. How have your relationships changed in your life during your deconstruction journey?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of friends anymore. I was kind of a recluse anyway. Like, I'm very introverted and my circle's pretty small. But I can see how it would be especially difficult for someone who really someone who's an extrovert and has a lot of, I don't know, it must be it's so hard. But yeah, I do, I have some relationships that I grieve for sure.
Mm. Yeah, and that goes on to say, at my age, beyond middle age, it's difficult to make new friends, and I'm kind of getting freaked out that when I'm old, I'll have no friends at my funeral.
I'll come to your funeral.
Yeah, we'll be there, Annette.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are so sad, but I think it's important, again, as people like you and I are sharing our stories, to just say, but it is worth it.
It's worth it.
It is worth it.
It's worth it. And I really do think others will follow. I do. And I think the more people see other people, I think this is just the beginning. I do. Don't you think it's coming? Right?
I mean, I think we're seeing a big turn. And I think as that happens, we're seeing the right-wing church, dig in even more. But I think every day
there are some people, digging their heels in.
Yeah, but I think that generation is going to pass, and I don't think it's going to carry into the next generation.
Right.
At least I pray not. So it may not be that important. What are some resources that you use to, I guess, help bolster up that having hope and thinking that it's worth it? What are maybe some books that you've read or podcasts that you listen to, or how have you sort of edified yourself in this journey?
TikTok, honestly, TikTok. I love it. I love TikTok because I have ADD, and so it's like I get these short videos like that and my brain can handle, I can process, but no, TikTok. I've started.
Now that we can do 3-minute videos, I keep wrestling with how long do I want to let my videos get.
I know. I did one the other day that was 84 seconds and I got it to, it didn't get a ton of views. I think people have very short attention span on TikTok, but yeah, TikTok. And I started Jesus and John Wayne. And
Kristen Dumais.
I've listened to Evangelical-ish, so your other podcast, and Straight White American Jesus. Have you heard that one?
Straight White American Jesus. No, I haven't.
Yeah, podcast Straight White American Jesus. It's a good one. So, no, a lot of what I'm doing now, though, is so much of just thinking for myself. I do a lot of thinking. And
have to ask before I let you go here, and I really appreciate your time today. So you were talking about you took a trip and you hung out with April LaJoy from TikTok, with that one girl, Rachel, and gosh, what's Abby's? I can't remember.
It's that Pastor Abby, I think is hers.
That Pastor Abby. So how was that? How did you guys end up getting together, and what was that like?
I don't even know. We were texting. And I can't even remember how that happened, but we were all four on a text thing, and somebody, I think maybe I brought it up, and we just made it happen. It happened really fast, but it was great. So we all met in Knoxville, and we made lots of TikToks, and it was awesome. Like, if you had told me back in January, that I would have this kind of community, it's great. So
Yeah.
I hope it encourages other people that there is community for this that's growing. But it felt like a breath of fresh air. I feel like I've made lifelong friends, to go through this together.
And you found them on TikTok.
And I found them on TikTok. But people said like, oh, well, we should do a whole like conference or whatever. And like, I think April's eyes started twitching when she heard the word conference.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with another name.
Yeah, not a conference.
Not a conference, not a crusade.
Yeah, not just a happening or something.
Not a revival.
Yeah.
Annette, by the way, says she'll let us know when she kicks the bucket. So.
And Annette, you're going to be. Are you on TikTok, Annette? Is she on there?
I don't know. We'll have to find out if she's following on TikTok. But anyway, I really enjoyed the discussion today, and I want people to know you because I think, again, you're bringing a voice in a different accent, but even more so as a powerful woman who's overcome a lot, who's successful in business, and who had to make a really tough break from community. I think your voice is really important in helping a lot of other people maybe to make a very tough decision of whether to come back and hang back with the community that they love so much or make a move out and pursue truth and true God. So I'm really glad people got to meet you through my platform.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. Really.
Well, you deserve the honor. And so keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep following you on TikTok. Let me put your name back up there so people, if they haven't followed you yet, at BHAM Blue Dot. And she's really, really good. You'll enjoy it. All right, Lindsay. Well, let's keep chatting and let's keep hanging out.
Okay. Sounds great.
And all you guys on YouTube, thanks for joining and for following and supporting on Patreon. You guys make all this happen. So we appreciate it. And we'll see you guys again soon.